I gotta be honest. This episode, I zoned out. There was one part in here where I zoned out so bad. For a second, I thought the butler had turned into the mantis sword, and I'm like, wait, what the hell just happened? I had to go back and watch it. This episode did nothing for me for the overall series. I was just, I, I, I tried to pay attention. I actually had to go back and watch a couple parts, like 2 or 3 times, because this was just, it was a boring episode. I don't even think they killed the monster of the week, and we'll talk about that later on, because they made it seem like they one-shot him, but I don't think so. It was really weird. But this episode just did nothing for me for this year. I just could not care like at all about this episode. I get it; it's an intro arc. Dom Brothers did not hook me in at all for the first 5 episodes for the intro arc. I was like, okay, whatever, CGI, Rangers, whatever, who cares, not really big fan of it. Obviously, again, you have to remember this isn't going to be, top tier CGI. I thought the CGI was, pretty good. It was basically just kind of landscapes this week because they were mainly outdoors. It was, just like wildlife kind of. And no, there was no animals really. So just a bunch of trees and whatnot. Anyway, we'll get into it because this bored the heck out of me, honestly. So we start out with God Kabuto, which is the black sword. Shot down our Kiri a god or whatever the main red sword. Still learning names here. Shot him down. Blue and yellow get split up away from Gira. Red. I remember Gira now because front and center, but blue and yellow kind of just like whatever, like they're still not fully on board with each other, kind of fighting it out and whatnot. The butler, who I don't remember him getting scooped up, was there because apparently he can run 5 million miles an hour and get over to a whole nother kingdom where she is. I guess he must have a tracker. I don't know. It was really weird. It was really weird. This episode was so strange and so boring. In my opinion, maybe you liked it. I could not focus on this episode a lot. But the butler kind of was like, hey, like I always got to be there for my queen. So he brought a stroller and or not a stroller, but yeah, kind of like a stroller type of thing where she just kind of gets in and she's like, hey, like Blue, you're don't even think about getting in here. You're not getting in here. So they are, fighting, trying to walk down this path, and she's like, "Hey, like, get ahead of that stupid idiot. I don't want, I can't stand walking next to him." And he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go my own speed. I'm gonna beat you guys to wherever the hell we're going." So then we go to Gira, who, landed in a field type of area, and the king, who is the Black Ranger, which we find out midway through the episode, but I mean, it's kind of obvious, but at the same time, whatever. But I kind of wish the girl, I guess she's violet or purple. It's not pink. It's like violet. It's kind of like a light violet. I kind of wish she was black because she's dressed up in everything black. But again, that would mean But hey, we've had ToQger who, went pink and yellow before. They can do, maybe just make it like a dark pink. We've had a dark pink, male ranger before. Why can't we just do that? I don't know. I preferred, having a black, like, I thought that would have been cool to have a black, ranger. I think that would have been the first one. But then it was like obvious that, he was going to be, black, and she's going to be, again, it's this like light purple, violet type of color. Anyway, he's sitting down. He's got his, henchman, whatever you want to call him there with him, shading him from the sun. And, he's like, what are you doing here? What happened? And Gira's like, hey, I'm here. I'm a fugitive. I'm here to destroy my king. And he's like, oh, yes. I have a bunch of problems with that guy. I'll join your team right away, and I'll come help you kill him. So Gear's like, really? All right, let's go. So they go back to Black's kingdom, and he's offered up a bunch of food and housing and all this other crap. Because again, Black sees him as sees the other king as like this tyrannical ruler, essentially. What Gira thinks of him, and so he's offering all this stuff. He goes up to this kid, and this is designed to trick you out. He goes up to this kid, grabs a radish or something, whatever type of vegetable it was, and goes, "There's a bunch of dirt on this thing." And you see these, I don't know if they were his parents or whatnot, but you see these, like, men kind of like, or I think it was a man and a woman, kind of start walking toward him. The king kind of stops him, and Gira goes, "Dirt adds flavor." Okay. I mean, he mentioned there's bugs that were eating it, and he's just like, flavorful. What the hell? Like, they set this out. Again, it's designed to, it's a plot twist designed to make it like, oh, like, this guy's making fun of his kid for not washing his vegetables. And then he just eats the dirt and potentially the bugs. You do you. I don't want, I don't like bugs, but I don't like to eat bugs. So anyway, then they go, we have the main Bugnarok bosses who come, and we see Blue and Yellow are out fighting the minions on the other side of town. Black kind of jumps over, untransformed over there, and the boss is like, "Hey, like we want God Kabuto right now." And so they have this monster, who's already gigantic, by the way, start shooting at the fields, kind of destroying the fields. We found out that that's actually not the case. Kabuto was actually stopping the blast from actually hitting anything. But when we first see it, we think they're hitting the fields. And so Black's like, "Hey, like if you give me till tomorrow, I'll meet you out in the mountains and I'll hand over Kabuto tomorrow." So they're like, "Okay, whatever. You know what? That's a short enough amount of time." Because they said a year, then they said a couple months, and a month, and a couple weeks, and blah, blah, blah. So they just went down to tomorrow. There you go. So then Black goes off on his own, talks to, the Red King, and Red King's like, "Hey, like, what's taking so long to, bring Gira here? Like, I want to take care of Gira right now as fast as I can." We see, I believe they're his siblings. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're his siblings. We have an older sister, well, not older than Gira, but kind of like the middle child, and then a young boy. And again, I believe they're his siblings. They're kind of watching off, and the king kind of waves over and kind of smiles at them. And he's looking at me, he's like, "Hey, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what you do. Can't wait to, can't wait for everything to go, be in place." And he's staring at the kids as he's saying this. So, again, I believe they're his siblings, but maybe it's just, his neighbors from that, the village there. But, anyway, we go back. Go to the, I guess, I don't know. We'll touch on it. It's a dumb scene, but it's meaningful in a sense. Because obviously, the village is being destroyed. So they're all kind of eating. And Black's like, "Hey, like, will you guys help me?" And everyone else is just like gouging. They're just gouging themselves on food, trying to just eat as much as possible, as fast as possible. And Black's like, "You know what? You're not listening." Throws the table up. His henchmen kind of, catch a bunch of the food so it doesn't go to waste. And Black's like, "Hey, I need your fucking help, man. What are you doing? Stop eating. If they destroy everything, you're getting no more food." It's such a dumb scene, and I get it. They got to do it. Got to say like, "Hey, like we've got to protect the kingdom and whatnot." But it's so dumb. They're just sitting there, just gouging themselves, and Black's like, "Hey, I need help here, man. What are you doing?" And obviously, again, at this point in time, they're all still not buddy. They're basically just acquaintances, essentially. So they're like, "I don't give a shit about you. I don't care about anyone but my kingdom and myself." So I get that. But it's just like, hey, at least listen to the man. He brought you in. He's feeding you. And they just don't give a shit. It's just like, seriously. So then we go to the next day. We go to the mountains. The bosses show up. Kabuto shows up. Monster shows up. They end up getting into a fight. And then this is, again, I don't think the monster actually died. It was weird because, Yellow's like, "Yeah, we got him." But they show the blast and then the monster's just never seen for the rest of the episode again. Despite they're talking about this kind of shield, which is basically kind of like body armor. Thinking like, oh hey, like, are we gonna even be able to get through the armor with the blast? Which God Kabuto is just a gun on the Megazord. He's kneeling and his arm is like this, and so they're just like pew. So they fire one round, and again it kills him. But I don't think so. I think he might come back. I think the monster might come back. Maybe not next episode. Maybe in a couple down the future. It was so weird. The cuts were so weird. So I don't know if there's supposed to be more to this, and they're just like, oh, okay, we have no time, so we're just gonna go ahead and go, oh, this killed him. But it was so weird because he got his shield up, see an explosion, and then nothing. We just go to yellow, go, yeah, we got him, and then we're on to the end of the episode here. So I thought it was so strange. I did watch it twice, and I'm like, I don't think he's dead. But at the same time, I forget, there was something in Don Brothers in like the middle of the series where I'm like, that didn't look like it killed him. And then he was never seen, he's never seen again. So maybe he's dead. I don't know. It just felt like there should have been more here, but maybe time constraints, and they just kind of ran out and they're like, okay, we'll just kind of cut corners, and one attack is good enough. I mean, they did try to do a couple more, but it was mainly, they mainly just got together with Kabuto right away, and then just fired the blast. So then we set up the final member. Again, she's violet or whatever color it is. It's like a light violet. Set her up. So they're all down at the entrance of the kingdom of Black's kingdom, and Gira's shaking hands with them, and Blue's kind of talking out loud to himself like, hey, this man, and this is where we find out that Kabuto was protecting the fields. This man's kind of like setting everything up. Like, this man, like, everything's not adding up here. Like, he got us to kind of help him, and now we're, and he's trying to connect these dots, and he's looking over, and so Black kind of uses both his hands, kind of crushes, not exactly crushes, but really squeezes Gira's hand, and so he calls out for I think it was Rita, I think was her name. So we have the I think it was a butterfly or a moth come in. She comes down, walking with her sword visible and whatnot, and Black grabs onto him, kind of grabs onto Gira, kind of pushes him downward, so he can't really go anywhere. And so we just kind of end the episode of it with Rita saying, hey, like, you're trespassing in this kingdom, so now you will be tried in international court. So that's how we end next week's episode. We see Gira is in a he's in a snowman in a prison. This is going to be in the mountains, in the in a snow kingdom essentially. We're going to get some pretty cool snow fights. That looks pretty practical next week for the snow fight, so interested in that. There are scenes where we're still back in Black's Kingdom, so that's probably the very start of the episode. Unless they go back to it at the end. I don't know. We'll see next week. But this episode for me was just nothing. Like, it adds to the story. I get that. But it just was a nothing episode. It just really was boring. It did not get me invested in the series at all. I zoned out. I zoned out watching this because it's so hard to just care when, I don't want to say nothing happens, but it kind of felt like a filler episode, which is weird because we don't really explore the kingdom a lot like we did in the first, we kind of did in the first three. It's just we're showing like, oh, here's a bunch of food. Here's the people. Let's go to the the tower of the kingdom. Let's go eat food in the king's room, and then let's just go fight the monster, and then we're off to the snowy mountains next week. So I don't know. I could not get invested in this episode. That moment where the butler kind of steps back and the mantis comes in, that is. That is going to live rent-free in my head because I am always going to think about how I zoned out enough to make my mind think that the butler was the Zord. It's gonna live rent-free in my head. That's why I'm gonna remember this episode. I'm not gonna remember the fights. I'm not gonna remember the Zords or anything. I'm gonna remember the butler possibly turning it into the Mantis Sword, and then realizing no, he just stepped out of frame so the Mantis Sword could come down, get into the shot here. So oh my god, it's gonna live rent-free in my head. 100% win-free. So yeah, that's about it. We're 15 minutes in. I could have made this a lot shorter. It was a nothing episode. Like, it really was. So for now, like the video, share the video around, don't forget to subscribe. If you liked it, good for you. I just wish we would have kind of saw a little bit more of the kingdom. And I get it. There's only 23 minutes, and you have to, tell the, story here. You have to have a monster of the week here. But it just it felt like the first 3 episodes, we focused a bit on the kingdoms before we switched over in the second half of the episode of the monster. This one was just like, okay, we're just going to go here, 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 monster of the week. Felt like we didn't really spend a lot of time, seeing the kingdoms. And that's what they should be doing early on in these intro episodes. Push the monsters, towards the end of the episode. Let's focus on the scenery. Let's focus on the kingdoms. We're supposed to, eventually get to know these people, eventually get to know these kingdoms. Eventually get to know the support system that each one has. Like, Yellow has her butler. I'm gonna call him henchman. Black has his henchman. Blue has his tech savvy hackers behind him and whatnot. So we should be kind of setting this up, and I just didn't feel like we really did that with Black here. So, and I get it. He's kind of like a traitor, and so maybe we'll go back to. Maybe that's what the end of the next episode is, as we go back to this kingdom, kind of set everything up. But it didn't do it for me this week. It did not. Now, again, Don Brothers is the same way for me. I was not invested early on in the series. We get through the kind of the first arc, and then it's like, bang! And we just explode. And it gets so much better the deeper into the series you get. So, we'll see. I'm praying we have a Don Brothers type of series. Way too early to tell, obviously, but it's just, again, these intro episodes are not doing it for me again. So for now, like the video, share the video around, don't forget to subscribe, and I'm out of here. Peace.